When war correspondent Maya Reeves's camera broke, security officers learned her true identity. She was the legendary Phantom sniper. Maya Reeves, 38, stood in line at Denver International Airport, gripping her Canon EOS R5 camera like a lifeline. To everyone around her, she was just another war correspondent heading to another dangerous assignment. They had no idea they were standing next to the most legendary sniper in U.S. military history, a ghost who had vanished 15 years ago. For over a decade, Maya had perfected the art of invisibility. She covered conflict zones that made veteran correspondents refuse assignments: Syria, Afghanistan, Somalia, eastern Ukraine, places where death lurked behind every corner. Her colleagues at American Global News often wondered how she remained so unnaturally calm in situations that would terrify seasoned war reporters. "Don't you ever get scared out there?" young journalist Michael Rodriguez had asked her just last week, after she'd returned from covering cartel violence along the Texas-Mexico border. Maya had looked at him with those dark eyes that seemed to hold secrets. "Fear comes from inexperience," she'd said simply. Michael had laughed, thinking she was being modest. He had no idea that Maya Reeves possessed more combat experience than most active-duty Rangers. But the most shocking part was yet to come. Because what happened next would shatter 15 years of carefully constructed civilian life in a single, reflexive movement. This morning's assignment seemed routine enough, covering refugee resettlement operations in Phoenix, Arizona. Editor David Thompson had briefed her with his usual casual tone. "Standard humanitarian story, Maya. Get some human interest pieces about Syrian refugees adapting to life in Arizona. Nothing too complicated." Maya had nodded and packed her gear, preparing for what she thought would be another straightforward domestic journalism assignment. She had no idea that this routine story would force her to confront the one identity she'd tried desperately to bury. The TSA checkpoint at Denver International was typically mundane until Agent Robert "Bobby" Williams noticed something unusual. As a former Marine sergeant who'd served 3 tours in Iraq, Bobby had developed an eye for details others missed. Maya's camera bag caught his attention, not because of what was in it, but because of how it was organized. Every piece of equipment was positioned with military precision, lenses arranged for maximum efficiency, backup batteries placed for instant access, memory cards secured in tactical pouches. This wasn't the casual organization of a civilian photographer. This was the methodical preparation of someone trained for combat operations. "Journalist?" Bobby asked as Maya approached the scanner. "Yes, American Global News," Maya replied, her voice carrying that same controlled tone she used in war zones. Bobby nodded, but something nagged at him. The woman's posture, her economical movements, the way she scanned her surroundings, it all reminded him of someone from the stories. Every Marine in Iraq had heard whispered tales about Phantom, the legendary Army sniper who could make impossible shots in impossible conditions, who had saved countless lives before mysteriously disappearing. And now, the most incredible part. Maya retrieved her bag and pulled out her beloved camera for a final equipment check. The Canon EOS R5 had been her companion for 2 years, the tool that had helped her capture award-winning photographs from America's most overlooked communities. That's when disaster struck. The camera slipped from her hands. Maya's reaction was instantaneous and devastating to her cover. In the split second the camera fell toward the polished airport floor, her body moved with the fluid precision of a trained killer. Her knees bent into a combat crouch, her torso rotated with tactical efficiency, her hands positioned exactly as if she were wielding a high-powered rifle instead of trying to catch falling photography equipment. It was Phantom's signature stance, a movement so distinctive it had been documented in classified military training materials, but was never supposed to be witnessed in civilian life. Bobby Williams's breath caught in his throat. His coffee cup slipped from his suddenly trembling fingers. "That's impossible," he whispered. Now the real story begins, because Maya caught her camera, but the damage was catastrophic, both to the equipment and to 15 years of carefully maintained cover. The lens was completely shattered, the camera body cracked beyond repair. Her trusted companion lay broken in her hands. But the broken camera was the least of her problems. "Is there a problem?" Maya asked, noticing Bobby's frozen stare and the recognition dawning in his eyes. Bobby's heart hammered against his ribs. That stance, that reflexive combat positioning, the muscle memory that could only come from thousands of hours of sniper training. He'd seen it before in classified footage. Every Special Forces operator knew about Phantom's legendary technique. I just, Bobby stammered, his Marine training warring with disbelief. Maya studied his face with the analytical precision of a predator assessing a threat. She saw recognition there, and recognition was death to a ghost trying to live among the living. "Is there an issue with my equipment?" Maya's voice carried a subtle edge now, a hint of the steel that lay beneath her civilian facade. Bobby glanced around the busy terminal. Other TSA agents were focused on their lines, travelers rushing past with their own concerns. He leaned closer and spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. Are you Phantom?" The question hit Maya like a sniper's bullet. No one had spoken that name in 15 years. No one was supposed to know it ever existed. But you haven't heard the most unforgettable part of the story yet. Because Maya's response would set in motion a chain of events that would drag her back into a world she'd fought desperately to escape. "I don't know what you're talking about," Maya said, her voice ice-cold with practiced denial. "I'm former military," Bobby continued, his whisper urgent. "I served in Iraq. Every Marine knows the stories about Phantom, that movement you just made. That's not something a journalist learns in college." Maya felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that preceded combat operations. Security cameras were recording everything. She couldn't afford to eliminate this threat the way she once would have. She was Maya Reeves now, civilian journalist, not Phantom the Ghost Warrior. "My name is Maya Reeves. I'm a correspondent for American Global News. Nothing more, nothing less." Bobby nodded slowly, but the suspicion burning in his eyes told Maya everything she needed to know. Her cover was blown. "Of course," Bobby said. "My mistake. Have a safe flight." But it wasn't a mistake, and Maya knew it. As she walked toward her gate, she could feel Bobby's eyes tracking her movement, could sense him reaching for his phone. And this is where the story gets truly insane. Because within minutes of Maya passing through security, Bobby Williams was on the phone with his supervisor, Airport Security Director Marcus Patterson, a 25-year FBI veteran whose job was identifying threats that ordinary people couldn't even imagine. "Patterson here." "Marcus, this is Bobby at Terminal A. We have a code black situation. Woman named Maya Reeves claims to be a journalist, but I think she's Phantom." The coffee mug in Marcus's hand exploded against his office floor. "What the hell did you just say?" "Phantom, Marcus, the legendary Army sniper from Iraq. I just watched her execute movement that only she could know. This isn't a drill." Marcus's fingers flew across his keyboard, pulling up security camera footage. He watched Maya's reflexive response to her falling camera, replaying the sequence multiple times with increasing disbelief. "Son of a bitch," Marcus breathed. "That's really her." Without hesitation, Marcus dialed a number that connected directly to the Pentagon's most classified operations center. General Harrison's office, secure line. "This is Marcus Patterson, Denver Airport Security. I need immediate connection to General Harrison. Priority Alpha clearance. Stand by." 30 seconds later, a gravelly voice came on the line. "Marcus, this better be good. I'm in the middle of a Joint Chiefs briefing. General, I found her. I found Phantom." The silence on the other end of the line stretched for an eternity. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, "Phantom's been dark for 15 years, Marcus. She might as well be dead." "No, sir. She's alive. She's at my airport, and she's using the identity Maya Reeves. She's working as a war correspondent." Brigadier General James Harrison felt his chest tighten. Phantom had been his greatest asset and his greatest failure. The most effective sniper in modern military history, who had simply vanished one day after the Fallujah disaster. No note, no explanation, no trace. "Are you absolutely certain?" "Security footage confirms it, General. That movement signature, It's impossible to fake. General Harrison's mind raced through the implications. If Phantom was alive, if she was operating as a civilian journalist, no one else knows about this? Just Bobby Williams, the agent who identified her. He's former Marine, served in Iraq, knows the stories. Lock it down. Complete information blackout. Protect Maya Reeves's cover at all costs. But Harrison paused, weighing his words carefully. I need to speak with her. Sir, she's about to board a flight to Phoenix, some kind of refugee resettlement story. Phoenix? Harrison's blood ran cold. Marcus, you need to stop her. Now. Now comes the most dangerous part, because Maya was approaching Gate A18 when she sensed the shift in atmospheric pressure that every combat veteran learns to recognize. More security personnel had materialized around the terminal. Radio chatter had increased. People were looking at her differently. She'd been made, completely and thoroughly compromised. An old rule from her Phantom days echoed in her mind. When your position is compromised, you run. Maya adjusted her bag and began moving toward the nearest exit, her journalist cover story already dissolving in her mind. But it was too late. Ms. Reeves? Maya turned, and her blood turned to Arctic ice. A middle-aged man in dress uniform stood 3 feet away, the silver stars on his collar identifying him as a general officer. But it wasn't just any general. It was James Harrison, her former commanding officer, the man who had given her the Phantom code name. I'm General Harrison. We need to talk. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs, but her face revealed nothing. 15 years of civilian life had taught her to hide her emotions even better than military training had. I'm afraid I don't know you, General. I'm just a journalist trying to catch a flight. Harrison smiled, and it was like stepping through a time portal. The same confident smile he'd worn when briefing her for impossible missions, when trusting her with shots that could change the course of entire operations. Phantom, after 15 years, don't you recognize your old CO? And now the bombshell drops. Maya's carefully constructed world began collapsing around her like a building under artillery fire. Harrison, her mentor, her father figure, the man who had believed in her when no one else would. I don't know who you're talking about, Maya said, but even she could hear the lack of conviction in her voice. Maya Reeves, age 38, formerly Staff Sergeant Maya Reeves, United States Army Special Operations, codename Phantom, served with distinction in Iraq 2007 to 2009. Credited with 52 confirmed tactical eliminations, 0 civilian casualties, and saving an estimated 300 Allied lives, disappeared without trace following the Fallujah incident. Maya's eyes filled with tears she'd been holding back for 15 years. Fallujah, where everything went wrong, where her teammates died because of intelligence failures and command incompetence, where she'd learned that the system she'd served so faithfully was fundamentally broken. I died in Fallujah too, Maya said quietly. Harrison stepped closer, his voice gentle. No, Phantom. That day you chose to live. You chose to find another way to protect people. And now you're here. Maya looked around the terminal. Regular people living regular lives, families heading to vacations, business people catching flights. None of them knowing they stood in the presence of a legendary warrior who had killed to protect innocence and then walked away from the life she'd known. What do you want from me, General? To talk. There's a situation developing, and we need your help. Maya shook her head firmly. I'm not a soldier anymore. That life is over. Phantom is dead. But those skills aren't dead, are they? What you did 30 minutes ago proves that. Maya looked at her broken camera, still clutched in her hands. That reflexive movement, that muscle memory. 15 years of civilian life hadn't erased what she'd been trained to be. Here comes the real shock. Harrison led Maya to the airport's VIP security lounge, a soundproof room where conversations couldn't be overheard or recorded. Once the door sealed behind them, he handed her a classified folder marked with seals she recognized from her darkest missions. Phantom, I know you think you're done with this life, but there are still people who need what you can do. I don't kill anymore, Maya said sharply. That part of me is gone forever. We're not asking you to kill. We're asking you to save lives." Maya opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside was a photograph of a young woman, Dr. Lisa Martinez, 31 years old, emergency medicine specialist. She was smiling in the photo, her eyes bright with the kind of hope Maya remembered having once, long ago. "She's working at a refugee resettlement center in Phoenix," Harrison continued, "providing medical care to Syrian families. But she's been marked for assassination by a domestic terrorist cell. They see her as a traitor for helping Muslim refugees." Maya studied the file. Dr. Martinez's credentials were impressive: University of Arizona Medical School, trauma surgery residency, volunteer work in disaster zones around the world. She was everything Maya might have been if she'd chosen a different path. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're scheduled to fly to Phoenix today to cover that exact resettlement program. As Maya Reeves, journalist. And because you're the only person who can keep Dr. Martinez alive." Maya closed the file. "I'm a correspondent, not a bodyguard. Phantom, there are 2,000 refugees in that center. Dr. Martinez is their only medical care. If the terrorists succeed in killing her..." Maya thought about Fallujah, about the teammates she couldn't save, about the guilt she'd carried for 15 years. "This is voluntary?" "Completely. You can walk away right now, catch your flight, do your story, and come home. No one will ever know this conversation happened." "And if I agree?" "You save Dr. Martinez. You save 2,000 refugees who depend on her. And maybe you find some peace with Fallujah." Maya stared at Dr. Martinez's photograph for a long time. The young doctor reminded her of herself at that age, idealistic, determined to make the world better, believing that good intentions were enough. "I have conditions," Maya said finally. "Name them. No kills, protection only. I won't take a life, not even to save one." "Agreed. This is the last time. After this mission, Maya Reeves continues her life as a journalist. Phantom stays buried." "Understood. And no one else knows. My cover remains intact." Harrison nodded. "Just like the old days. Ghost operation." Maya picked up her broken camera. "I'll need new equipment." "Already arranged. Full technical support package will be waiting for you in Phoenix." But the real surprise was coming now. Because as Maya prepared to leave the secure room, Harrison handed her something that made her blood freeze, a small wooden box marked with symbols she'd hoped never to see again. "What is this?" "Open it." Inside the box, nestled in black foam, was a custom-built scope. Not just any scope, her scope. The one she'd used in Iraq, the one she'd thought had been destroyed after her disappearance. "We kept it," Harrison said quietly, "hoping someday you'd come back." Maya lifted the scope with reverent hands. The weight was exactly as she remembered. The serial numbers matched her memory. This piece of equipment had been part of her soul once. "You can't expect me to..." "It's just a scope, Phantom. What you do with it is up to you." 2 hours later, Maya boarded a flight to Phoenix. Her new camera equipment was comprehensive, but hidden beneath the journalism gear was technology that would have impressed her old sniper teams. Non-lethal deterrence, advanced communications, surveillance equipment that could track threats from incredible distances. And now, the real story begins. The flight to Phoenix took 90 minutes, giving Maya time to study everything about Dr. Martinez's situation. The terrorist threat was real and immediate. Intelligence indicated a white supremacist cell called Desert Patriots planned to attack during the weekly medical clinic when maximum civilians would be present to amplify the terror impact. Maya's mind shifted into tactical mode for the first time in 15 years. Sightlines, escape routes, choke points, civilian evacuation procedures, all the calculations that had once been as natural as breathing began flowing through her consciousness again. When she arrived at the Phoenix Refugee Resettlement Center, the humanitarian operation was impressive. Hundreds of Syrian families living in temporary housing while they learned English and job skills. Children playing in courtyards despite their traumatic backgrounds, families who had lost everything except hope. And in the center of it all was Dr. Lisa Martinez. Maya found her in the medical clinic, treating an elderly Syrian man who'd developed diabetes complications. The doctor's hands moved with the same precision Maya once applied to her weapons, every motion calculated to preserve life. "Dr. Martinez? I'm Maya Reeves from American Global News." Dr. Martinez looked up and Maya was struck by the exhaustion in her eyes. This woman had been working herself to death trying to save everyone she could. "A journalist? Here? I'm doing a story about refugee resettlement success stories, but I'm also here to help you." "Help me how?" Maya glanced around the clinic. The security was virtually non-existent. A determined attack would succeed within minutes. "I know you're in danger. I'm here to make sure nothing happens to you." Dr. Martinez laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're a reporter. What could you possibly do against armed terrorists?" Maya smiled the way she used to before operations. "I'm many things, Dr. Martinez." Now comes the critical moment. That night, Maya conducted reconnaissance around the center's perimeter. She identified 12 potential breach points, mapped terrorist approach routes based on FBI intelligence, and established observation posts that provided complete tactical awareness of the surrounding area. At 6:23 a.m., her surveillance equipment detected vehicle movement approaching from the east. 2 pickup trucks carrying approximately 8 armed men, moving in loose formation toward the medical clinic building. Maya activated her communications gear. "Base, this is Ghost. Packages inbound, initiating protective protocols." But she wouldn't use lethal force. Instead, Maya had prepared something different, a non-lethal response that would neutralize the threat while preserving her promise never to kill again. The Desert Patriots approached Dr. Martinez's clinic with amateur enthusiasm but dangerous intent. They'd clearly planned this operation to maximize casualties and media impact. What they hadn't planned for was encountering a ghost from Iraq who had spent 15 years learning new ways to fight. Maya used precisely timed flashbang devices to disorient the attackers. Sound cannons created confusion and panic. Smoke grenades provided concealment for civilian evacuation. And through it all, Maya moved like the predator she'd once been, systematically dismantling the attack without spilling a single drop of blood. Within 6 minutes, the terrorist cell was retreating in complete disarray. Dr. Martinez was safe. The refugees were protected, and Maya had kept her promise. No one died. "How did you do that?" Dr. Martinez asked in amazement as Maya emerged from the chaos. "Just some skills I picked up along the way," Maya said modestly. And here's the most shocking part. Later that day, as Maya filed her news reports about Dr. Martinez's humanitarian work, she received a secure communication from Harrison. "Phantom, that was brilliant work. The Desert Patriots are calling it a supernatural event. They think the center is protected by government black ops. They won't be back." Maya typed her response carefully. "I'm not Phantom anymore. I'm Maya Reeves, and Dr. Martinez is safe." "Yes, she is. And so are 2,000 refugees who depend on her." Maya looked at her new camera, then at the scope Harrison had given her. 2 tools, 2 lives, 2 ways of protecting people. Maybe they weren't so different after all. When she returned to Denver 3 days later, editor David Thompson greeted her enthusiastically. "Maya, the Phoenix coverage is absolutely incredible. Best humanitarian story we've published this year." "Thank you," Maya said, settling back at her familiar desk. Michael Rodriguez approached with his usual eager curiosity. "Maya, Phoenix must have been intense. How do you stay so calm in dangerous places?" Maya looked at the young reporter, remembering herself at that age. "Fear comes from inexperience, Michael. But courage comes from knowing you can protect the people who matter." "You sound like you have a lot of experience," Maya smiled. "More than you know." That evening, alone in her Denver apartment, Maya received a final message from Harrison. "Phantom, if we need you again." Maya stared at the message for a long time. Then she typed, "I'm Maya Reeves. I'm a journalist, but if people like Dr. Martinez need protection, some ghosts never really disappear. Not everyone who carries a powerful past needs to be celebrated. Some people walk quietly through our lives, leaving behind skills and wisdom for us to use exactly when we need them most. Maya didn't step forward to become a hero again. She simply kept a promise, and with techniques that preserved life instead of taking it, she ensured the safety of thousands. Sometimes what the world needs isn't someone demanding recognition, it's someone who doesn't need recognition at all. If you've ever seen someone's true value only when they acted in silence, share this story. Because the world needs more people like Maya Reeves, former Phantom, current guardian angel, eternal protector of those who cannot protect themselves. And so the story finds its true meaning. The following week, new assignments waited on Maya's desk, each from a different corner of America, each promising new stories to tell, new people to meet. But now Maya carried more than just her camera to every assignment. She carried the knowledge that some skills never truly disappear. They just find new purposes. She carried the wisdom that strength isn't about the ability to destroy, but about the choice to protect. And somewhere in a refugee center in Phoenix, Dr. Lisa Martinez continued saving lives, never knowing that a legendary ghost had watched over her for 3 days, ensuring her mission of mercy could continue. Because that's what real strength looks like. Not the power that demands to be seen, but the power that works in shadows, ensuring the light can keep shining. Maya Reeves, former Phantom current journalist, eternal guardian, understood that better than anyone.